Welcome to stream number 70 in this series. Wow, I can't believe it's been 70 streams. Where I'm excited to introduce, those of you may know him, Nathan Tolbert.
How you doing?
I was very excited to have him on stream. As some of you know, he has worked on Anguna and Robo Ninja, and I thought I had my copy of Anguna here. Do you have one that you can show?
I've got one. You want me to?
Can I borrow that?
Yeah. You want me to get this to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Eric. How you going?
So, hopefully that wasn't awful and really cheesy, but
I'm sure it was cheesy.
As you can see, I am actually here with Nathan. So, hey, Derek.
Hey, how you doing?
So, thanks so much for being on the stream.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks
actually next to me. Yeah, no, that's really...
Shut up in my basement.
Yeah, you had no choice. No, but that's... thanks, I appreciate you agreeing to letting me into your house.
Thank you.
It was great. I was glad that I was able to come to the Chicago area and meet up with you. It's not often that we all get to actually see one another.
Exactly.
So,
told the kids there's an internet friend coming, but I haven't actually met him. So.
Yeah, my wife was similarly sort of leery about the idea of the fact that I was meeting somebody that I'd only talked to online. Yeah. It's like bad internet dating or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But NES, so it's fine. So, as you know, the stream is about NES homebrew and getting people excited and interested in NES homebrew. And so, you've been doing this for how long?
The NES stuff for 2 years now.
Okay.
It's been almost 3 years. I guess I started 2 years ago for the competition.
Okay. And what were you doing before that?
So I've done homebrew of different sorts.
Right.
So back in 2004, I started with Game Boy Advance homebrew because I had always wanted to do console games, and finally with Game Boy Advance, I started reading about it. I'm like, this is easy enough that I can do it.
Yeah.
The hardware was easy to get.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, it was really hard to get any hardware to play on the NES.
Right.
But the Game Boy Advance, you could get flash cartridges really cheap. I was living in China, and they were cheaper.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you were actually in China where most of them were coming.
You could go down to the little electronics. I was in Shenzhen where they make them.
Okay.
You go to the electronics market, and they just have them sitting there.
Oh, that's cool.
So.
Yeah, so you probably ordered from some of the places we were, or you bought from some of the places we were probably ordering from. Like this, there's this one company, they're definitely not around anymore, Litsang.
I never saw their office. I know they were. I think they were in Hong Kong, not Shenzhen.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
they were close. But.
So and we've talked about this. I did some Game Boy Advance programming too, a little earlier than that, but similar experience. I really wanted to do console. I saw that homebrew was available, and then that hardware was available.
Exactly.
They put it on the Game Boy, so it was really pretty exciting. Okay, so you started.
So I started on that. Kind of at the same time, I started researching. So I was like, my whole life I wanted to do Nintendo. So that was the system that I thought was the coolest thing ever. So even back in 2006, I downloaded some document about how to program Nintendo, and I read that and said, forget it. This sounds too hard.
Yeah.
So I did Anguna. I released that in 2008, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Then followed it up with a DS port, which is pretty simple because they're very similar hardware.
Right.
And then after that, I was like, I want to make more games. I don't know what. I hadn't really stumbled on any other homebrew communities. The Game Boy Advance community was kind of dying, so I did an Android game.
Okay.
Called Robo Ninja. It was kind of the idea of I wanted to make a Metroidvania game with the tap-to-jump mechanic. And I had fun making it, but I think I mentioned this before on lots of chats. There's just no community.
Right.
Like I released it and got thousands of downloads and got a few, 3-star, 4-star ratings. And that was it.
I liked, by the way, on your homepage, your little encouragement of people to download. It's like it's free. There's no commitment. Just
try
it. It's fun.
Like that was my thing. So I was also annoyed about every game having the modern cell phone thing where you have to get credits or you have to do this, and it's designed to just suck you in. And I'm like, I just want to make a game. Right. So that was fun. And then when I finished that, I was kind of like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And that was when I picked up Atari programming. I thought, and I was incorrect, that it would be easier than Nintendo programming. So I started with Atari. I knew they both did 6502. And I had done a little bit of 6502 on my Apple computer when I was a kid. Not very much, but enough to kind of remember. Yeah. it's like, I'll start with Atari, that'll be easier, and then I'll move to Nintendo.
Mhm.
I don't think it was any easier.
Yeah.
But so I spent 3 years making a version of Anguna for Atari, and then I was like, okay, finally I think I can do this.
Right.
Let's start on the Nintendo. So
Well,
I've done a couple competition games. And
Yeah, and we'll talk about those in a second. And I think we'll save this to when we talk about that. But the fact that you ported Robo Ninja from the NES to the Atari and how you did that is really cool.
that was a fun one to see if I could do it.
Sorry, I'm
No, you're fine.
adjusting. it's
I'm
weird
kind of off
having
the
two
edge.
people in the room.
You have to be really close here.
Um,
We just met, but you know.
Yeah. Hey, that whole internet thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so wow, you like just brought it all together because normally I ask, okay, so what were you programming and doing when you decided to do the NES? But it was kind of a progression for you from system to system to system.
Yeah, and I have the most fun kind of learning a system and making a big game. I've done some piddly games for the competitions, which maybe we'll talk more about.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea of
Well, you
make
seem to
some
really
big
like
game.
multiplayer.
I like that too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go off on a tangent.
Sure.
But especially, so this past year
Mhm.
at Midwest Gaming Classic,
Mhm.
at one point I was walking around and I walked into a room and there's all these people, this crowded room, and every single one of them is in front of a TV by themselves staring.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is depressing. Like,
Mhm.
I like video games, but
Right.
it was kind of depressing seeing all these people just. And then I look over and some of them were at a multiplayer game
Right.
and they were laughing and jabbing each
Mhm.
other. You know,
Yeah.
it was either Kevin's No Good Can Come to
Right.
This,
Yeah.
or some of them were playing the Space Sim Racing that they had done.
Yeah.
And when they're playing these multiplayer games, they're jabbing and
Oh,
having
yeah.
fun, and I'm like, it really brings people together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, I can see both of those games are really competitive and like really about like stomping on the other
right,
person.
and so
like
I've kind of enjoyed trying
yeah.
to get that atmosphere going.
well, and that's jumping ahead with the NES Homebrew Wars, which
Yeah.
looks amazing. So cool. And so your background is programming, right?
Yes, I had a Texas Instruments computer that I wanted to program on as a pretty young kid,
Mm-hmm.
and all my life I was like, I want to be a computer programmer.
Mhm.
So I did that a lot growing up,
Mhm.
studied it in school, I'm professionally a computer programmer. So
Right. Now, was it because you wanted to do games, or you just were interested in programming in general?
mixture of both. I mean, it was mostly about games.
Mhm.
Like growing up, I would try to make these terrible games.
Right.
I made this little text-based Noah's Ark thing when I was a
Okay.
kid, where you're dodging raindrops, trying not to drown. But
That's
so I always wanted to do games, but professionally, it was a combination of lack of confidence and hearing about the long hours that game programmers worked. I
Right.
was never interested in really doing it professionally.
right.
So-
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's pretty common. Like a lot of people get into programming because they want to make games, myself included, and then it kind of morphs into a professional job, which is, I mean, that's great, especially at the the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Even with the .com bubble,
There's still
there
jobs
were
everywhere.
yeah, and
It's
still
an easy job that pays great if you know
Yeah.
how to do it.
yeah, and today too. I mean, it's one of those things where if you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy to find a job at not necessarily at like the big name companies.
Right. But
And
there's programming jobs everywhere.
Right.
and
yeah, and you work at a university, which
we can't hire programmers fast enough.
Yeah,
Like
which is-
everybody I know in town is like, hey, we're hiring.
that's awesome.
So if you're a programmer and you need a job, I know there's some of you out there. Come to Champaign.
So awesome. So I gotta switch back to my notes so I don't miss anything. So when you design your games, like what is your methodology? Because different people have different techniques that they like to use. Some people just dive into I'm going to make this kind of game, and
Right.
some people have this kernel of an idea and then they kind of iterate on it and toss away the stuff that doesn't work. What
It's
do you do?
really dependent on the thing. Like for Anguna for Game Boy Advance, I
Mhm.
started off just like, get a sprite on the screen.
Right.
And I had 2 or 3 ideas, and for the first 6 months, I was making a general game engine that could work for any of those ideas. One of them was actually a Blaster Mastery game, which is what I'm
Okay.
doing now. One
Yes.
of them was a Zelda type game.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of just, I'll just make a general spritey game engine. And then somewhere along the line, I'm like, I have to choose what I'm doing.
Right. Otherwise, all you've made is a tech demo.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of have I want to make a Zelda clone.
Mhm.
And then from there, it's kind of just throwing stuff at it to see what sticks.
Okay.
I am not a very disciplined plan person on my hobby projects.
Okay.
So it's like, I'll just add this. Hey, I've got a guy now. I need an enemy. Let's make a slime.
Okay.
So.
And then, how often do you find that you're taking stuff out? Because it's, I mean, it's like anything else, right? There's that adage that it's not done when you're done adding stuff. It's done when you're done taking stuff away.
I am terrible at throwing stuff away.
Okay.
So usually, once it's in there, it usually stays. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I made this. I don't want to get rid of it. But.
And how do you play test it? Is it just you? I mean, I know you give it to the community to test out too.
Most of my stuff in the past has been mostly me.
Okay.
The NES, I feel like there's NES and Atari. I've had more community that was willing to spend a lot of time on it. I guess in Anguna, the original one for Game Boy Advance, I had less of an idea of an official release. So it was more, here's a ROM, and then as I got feedback, well, I'll just change it.
Right.
And at some point, I'm like, I guess I'm done.
Yeah. Okay.
But so there wasn't that idea of I have to have my official playtesters because there's an official point of release as much.
Okay. Now, for the new game, are you going to do that a little bit more officially, or are you going to just kind of see what transpires?
Probably. I like to release my games free or open source.
Right.
So, like, what I did with Anguna for Atari was halfway through, I said, here's a demo ROM, let me know about what you think about the mechanics, the physics.
Right.
And so that was helpful to get kind of play general, the feel of it.
Right.
And then when it was done, I said, before I called it a cartridge release, here's the ROM. Hey, please test it.
Right.
If you find bugs and report them, I'll put you in the credits or I'll, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, with the new game I'm working on, I don't know yet.
Yeah. And you have Frankie Graphics doing
Yeah.
the art, which is
She's
fantastic.
Yeah,
she really is. And so she, I assume, is kind of okay with whatever ideas you throw at her for all of
We've
this
kind of
stuff?
gone back and forth with it. Because when I started it, I said, I want to kind of have a collaborative project. All my other ones, I've been very much, this is what I want to make, and I'm going to do whatever I want.
Right.
And I said it'd be fun to work with somebody. So it's been a little bit of back and forth. Hey, what if we did this? What if we did that?
Right. And she's super talented, so I think it makes it easier to work with someone who, assuming they don't have like an ego about it or something. But I feel like so few people in the community do.
Yeah. My fear is she has really high standards.
Yeah.
So I'm more like, that's good enough. And as we get closer to done, for a long way off,
Well,
I'm more worried that she'll be like, no, this needs to be perfect.
There was something that you said the other night on the Discord. I wish I remembered exactly how you said it, because it was like, I don't know if it works, but I wrote it so it's staying, or something like that.
That's about right.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, and usually those are your comments like just before you sign off for the night. It's like,
yes.
Well, I fixed this, wrote this, don't know if it works,
I don't know if
it's staying.
Yes. It's good enough, I'm not taking it out.
Yeah. And by the way, for the guys who are, the people who are watching, if you have questions, feel free to ask us questions. We have the chat open here.
We'll answer all of them unless they're bad questions.
So Kevin says, what the heck is this? And Derek said, one of you guys invented teleportation.
We did.
We did.
Through the Nintendo.
Through the Nintendo, right. We finally figured out that internet Nintendo thing, Kevin. And then Derek said NES Home Brawl.
He really wants it.
Yeah.
So I think I told Derek, the whole thing is, some of you might not have played it, there was a game called Super Mario War, which I stole most of the ideas from. It's 4-player, your Mario characters, and you jump on each other's heads. And it was one, anytime I'd have video game parties, that was the one that everybody wanted to play.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and I was like, I want to make that. Well, I don't want to get sued. What should I use instead?
Right.
Homebrew things.
Well,
so
I think that's so cool, because it gets everybody in the community together into one game, and everybody seemed to be super excited about it. I remember you were, sorry to interrupt, you were on the chat, and you were like showing people, and then I think it was Derek who said micromages?
Yeah.
Right? And then you just basically sent out messages, right? Like then and there.
Well, I think one of them even said, I can't remember which one it was like, yeah, you want to use micromages? Like, I don't think I even contacted them.
Right, no, they were there listening to the conversation, and then they were just like, yep.
My big concern going in was like, there's 3 or 4 games that are kind of open source. I think I can get 3 or 4 more. Maybe I can have 6 characters.
Right.
And then by the end, people were saying, hey.
Yeah.
MT was like, hey, use Kaylee.
Yeah.
I was like, here, use this person.
I was like, I wish I had a character.
I know.
But,
well, Temple said something like that too, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute. We got Donnie in here. I know it's not your game exactly, but...
Right. That's cool. So, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think anybody said no. I didn't hear back from the guy that did Battle Kit, Civac.
Okay.
He's the only one I contacted and didn't hear back from. Everybody else was excited about it. So.
Kevin asked if this was planned, and I didn't see this advertised. Yeah, it was a surprise. It was. We wanted to surprise you guys, just because I am here for work, and Nathan lives here.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of a drive, but
yeah, I'm surprised you're willing to drive 2 hours down from Chicago.
Yeah, but it's just cool to have everybody together. Brian wants to hear Freebird on the piano.
Not plugged in, sorry.
Yeah,
Brian.
Sorry.
I'll go get my guitar off the wall.
Yeah, we'll do that, and then I'll come back in like 10 minutes after Nathan's done. It's a little tough working just off the phone. So, all right, we asked that. So
I'm going to pull my computer around.
No, it's okay. What was the first thing, and I know the answer because you told me this before, what was the first thing that made you want to quit programming for the NES?
Attribute tables. I mean, everything else, especially coming off Atari, I'm like, there's so much, I mean, I know people, some of those people say 2K is not a lot. 2K is a ton of memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything about it's not too bad, except for the math for attribute tables is just stupid.
Yeah, and even I was surprised at how easy it was to get stuff on the screen, get the graphics in and get things loaded. Like, that was actually, I was pleasantly surprised. And then I think there was probably about 4 or 5 or maybe 6 streams of mine where I was just fixing problems and things that I had broken with attributes.
Yes. And building a scrolling engine, which we're all like, I'm going to make a big scrolling game. And once you get the multi-directional scrolling, and there's always something that's broken.
Yeah, and then I think was it you who said you're using 32 by 32?
I'm using for Halcyon. I'm using 32 by 32 meta tiles.
Right, and you explained why. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's what I'm going to use, and it's still not perfect.
I'm not sure it's the best. Well, plus, I mean, my thing was. You don't have to do any other level compression, and I wanted to be able to do, scrolling in different directions, so I didn't want anything complicated for compression. Well, and since they match over the attributes,
except when it doesn't, because you've got the half meta tile at the bottom, and that drove me crazy for a while too. Yeah, no, Derek said attributes table.
You're right. Well, he's the one that had the lookup table idea for doing that, which I wish I would have done.
So what was I know I saw it, but I didn't read it.
I don't remember how he did it.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well,
it was a good idea when I read about it. Right. I don't remember what he did. Derek will tell you all.
Right. No, that's fine. So attributes is definitely one of those things where everybody gets frustrated, and if you don't care about your palettes changing. Somebody was asking me how in the Pirates port for the NES, how they did their scrolling. Well, it's straight up basic scrolling. In fact, they actually use one screen mirroring. Okay. They don't have the.
I've heard that's actually easier.
Yeah, and they don't change the palettes. The whole screen is the same palette all around. So it's super easy. I was like, oh man. Well, they could get away with it because it's a boat on the water, so it's blue and brown and green,
sprites.
and they use sprites for the little wave that shows up in the water and the wind blowing, and that's it. Yeah. So.
Well, also because on Halcyon, I ended up deciding I was going to use GT-ROM just because I'm cheap, and I'm like, this thing's like $10 for a board, so I'm doing that.
Right.
So then you use 4 name tables with that, whether you like it or not. So that kind of pointed also, well, if I've already got 4 name tables, I don't have to worry about the edges of the screens for the attributes. And so 32 by 32 makes complete sense there. Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting things you got to do to make that work. What is this? Battle Kid, great homebrew or the greatest homebrew?
Battle Kid?
Yeah, that's Brian asking that.
The only time I ever played Battle Kid was for 5 minutes at PRGE at the Retro USB booth.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I've got both of them. I played the demo of the first one. I'm like, this is good.
I hated So You Want to Be the Guy, so I don't know if that,
Yeah.
They say it's similar.
What is it Bo who hates that?
What, So You Want to Be the Guy? Or Battle Kid?
Oh, no, Battle Kid.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, but Kevin likes it and Bo hates it because it's a platformer. And then Derek said, I'm going to make a Pico 8 game where you bid on livestock called Cattle Bid.
Was there some context there on this? Was that
A battle kid.
a battle kid?
Bid.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
likes the spoonerisms.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he said that you don't want to be the guy.
No, I don't want to be the guy.
Oh, it's Kevin who doesn't like that garbage. Okay. I knew one of them hated that game.
Yes.
I couldn't remember which one, though. Because their dislikes are so strong they've blended into just a general dislike
Yes.
for the podcast. So, all right. Well,
Anyway,
no,
guys.
what were we going to say?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, just I hadn't really played the game. But
Yeah.
I like hard things, so maybe it'd be fun.
We're getting into the tools part of the discussion.
Oh,
right?
I like tools.
So CC65, NES ASM, or ASM 6?
CC65 and CA65.
Okay.
You know,
Oh, right, because you code in C.
I kind of do half and half.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about that. That's a big deal.
It's I found there's enough of frustrating things in it that I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that you talk about that it's really easy to do, and then there are other things where you're like, wow, the performance is garbage.
It's just terrible.
Right,
Yeah.
let's see what happened. It's like, oh, it keeps swapping in memory and swapping it back out every time we loop.
Yeah, Robo Ninja Climb, I originally wrote part of the how it does little spikes in C, and it was used my entire frame for just like 3 spikes,
Oh, man.
copying pointers around.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
But the flip side is because you use CC65 or CA65, when you went to port Robo Ninja to the Atari.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, I ripped out all the NES I/O stuff, all the
Right.
controller stuff, and the main character logic, the item logic, and just ported mostly directly. I had to tweak a few things.
Right.
But
And that part was amazing because you're like, I think I'm going to port this. And then a couple days later, I think you were like, it's almost
it
done.
works. I think so. The almost takes like 6 months.
Well, sure, right.
That's
yeah.
the thing.
That
It's
was-
almost done.
Yeah, you guys were talking about that over the weekend or Friday, I don't remember, but it was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to do this project, and it's like 2 weeks. Tech demo done. Tech
Yep.
engine done. Great.
Next
Game
3
6
years.
months,
Yes.
whatever. Right, yeah,
Exactly.
to actually finish that part up. Yep. So,
But yeah, I was surprised it pulled the CA6 or CC65 code, and
yeah. And I mean, it's a really good approximation on the Atari. It looks really great.
it uses the same.
Yeah.
Well, the graphics are different. They
Right,
use
that's
the
what I
same
mean. Like
engine, so-
the graphics look reasonable, and I mean, obviously it plays the same. So that was really cool to see you do that port in such a short period of time because the tool lets you do that.
I have this dream now of, I don't know if I can ever do it, molding a double-ended cartridge so you can plug it into the NES or the Atari and have both in the same cartridge.
Dual Guna or something. Yeah, right. That would be cool. Just
Who knows?
you have to. Yeah, it would have to be really long to fit the front loader.
Exactly. I
Yes.
went for the angles. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work.
You got to get specialized molds made for that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to ask a question.
No, that's fine. And then, like, what other tools do you use when you're building your games?
So I use usually GVim for coding. Sometimes I'll use C-Line if I'm doing stuff in C. That's the JetBrains program. JetBrains IDEs are great.
Yeah.
And I use make a makefile to process everything.
Okay.
My big theory is for all assets, and I'm kind of a hardliner about this,
Yeah.
is that the source that you want to work with, like for
Mhm.
level editor,
Mhm.
you should never have an export step. Because as soon as you do, you're not sure what you're checking into version control, and you're not sure, does what you exported, did I change it? Did I change the file? And everything gets out of sync, and you're
Okay.
confused about how to do the export.
Okay.
And so my big thing is the file that I'm working with, whether it's a graphics file or a level design file or whatever it is,
Right.
my make file has to automatically convert it, automatically build it.
And correctly.
Yes.
So
So I only check in, the thing I can work with. I check in, my music, the family tracker.
okay. Now, when you work with like your graphics, you're checking your PNGs?
Yep.
Or,
I
okay.
just check those in.
And then you wrote a utility to convert them?
I used one that Teppel's made and I modified it a little bit.
Okay.
But he has one that he made and it's with his little template, in-ROM sample
Okay.
template.
And then Family Tracker, you're using the output format, or the
So
save file.
It has the save and load on text format.
Okay.
You can do. So I just save and load the text one. But yes, I check
okay.
that into version control.
And then that gets converted over to something that you can actually play in the game.
Yep.
Okay.
Either using Derek's the GGBM converter, or when I use Famitone, it's got a different converter.
Got it. The Python script that he insisted that Joe use.
Yes, that one that Joe
Right.
didn't use.
Right, got it. I don't know if I should bring that up or not, but it just seems like a sore point to Derek, so I figured we should.
Well, if people are complaining about conversion bugs that he didn't write.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you're going to use GGVM, you should probably use all the tools associated with it.
And then if I run into conversion bugs, I can complain to Derek and he'll fix them.
Right.
Since
exactly.
he wrote it.
And he fixes everything really quick.
Exactly.
Yeah, so. Cool, and then source control.
Source control, use Git. I got a plug Atlassian's Bitbucket.
Okay.
Because they have free private repositories.
Right.
So you can go out there and create you don't have to share it with the world.
Right.
You can host your code there.
Yeah.
But like Derek says, you don't even have to use external Git hosting. Just use Git.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Kevin. Use Git.
Well, I'm telling you, at MacFest, we're gonna do a source control session.
I think so.
And we're gonna make you. I'll bribe you with a beer or something.
Yes.
You got to come check it out because it's important. And then you've shown a couple of times you have a build server that you
I've got a
up.
Jenkins server running because my thing is like with my story with Anguna. Years after I was done, Heiko came to me and that's a mistake we'll talk about later. Came to me and said, hey, let's publish this thing.
Right.
But then trying to figure out, I had to make a few tweaks to it. But then I was like, how do I even rebuild this thing?
Right.
The tools are out of date.
Right.
I don't have my Windows XP computer anymore. Actually, I think it's sitting over there. But just in case.
Right.
But I'm frustrated. It took forever to figure out how do I compile this thing again. So now from this point, I have a server that I try to keep up to date always. It every week downloads my code fresh, does a build, makes sure it can.
Oh, so you actually have weekly builds running.
I have weekly builds running just to make sure it pings me if something broke.
Huh.
Which I don't really need weekly builds. Normally you do it just every time you push code.
Right.
But,
yeah. And then, like, how often do you update your tool set?
It just depends. Like on the build server, usually I only update it whenever my build server crashes and dies and I have to build a new one.
Okay. Because you were talking about how you had done an update, right? You did an update recently and there was a bug.
Well, yeah, my development machine that I normally uses a version of CC65 from 6 months ago, and the new version, something compiled slightly different.
Right.
It actually puts your if you're using CC65, it puts variables in a different order than how you declare them.
Right, and
I assumed they were in order, and so I just it barfed all over things.
Yes.
So there's things that change like that.
Right. Yeah, and I can see if you're depending on that, it's that's why nobody ever wants to upgrade.
Exactly.
No matter what new features you get, you're always breaking something.
You break something, and I never want to be stuck. Maybe I'm just paranoid. I never want to be able to stuck without the ability to just change some code and make a build.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to.
Yeah, and
change everything.
And that's the thing that it's so funny when you talk to developers who have never used build servers or source control. And I'm not just talking about the people in the community anymore, but in general, professionally too. And they fight you about it, and you're like, no, you don't understand. Like, you're wasting so much of your time, and then you put in the time initially, whatever it is, 3 or 4 days to get a build to actually produce an installer.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, so I just put my change in and I get a new installer.
It just does it for you.
Right, and I don't have to spend 3 hours every time I want a new install of the product. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Right. And then I'm like, if you really want to get fancy, we do tests before we build the installer. But, that's an even harder sell sometimes.
But for example, you're talking about, trying to do the installer. For Super Homebrew War, I have a GT ROM build and the regular BN ROM build that I can submit to the competition.
Yeah.
And there's that whole thing of you have to change a couple flags and change a couple things. Well, with the build server, it's building both of them all the time.
Right.
So I don't have to worry about, did I forget to change those flags?
Yeah, that's cool. So we kind of, it's nice because we have a lot of people from the community on. We've had a few people, it looks like, that are not necessarily, but somebody on, well, I guess he would be because he tested your game.
Did Tim Dudek show up?
Willie Bob?
Yeah. Hey, Tim. He's my office mate.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, he tested. But what do you like about the community?
I just like the fact that everybody's encouraging. Like, there's people that are on Discord, online, talking about our projects, and for the most part, there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, everybody's cheering each other on.
Right.
You make something, and you don't get a whole lot of, You get a lot of, well, that's cool, let's talk about it.
Right. And
just having somebody else that's into it to say, hey, how do I do this? Here's how you do it.
Right.
Or
Yeah, and I mean this is a recurring theme because it's totally true. But everybody in the community is super encouraging, and so I started doing this maybe about a year ago now, and I just remember getting in and asking questions and looking for help and expecting kind of like what you normally get in the internet.
You have to read the manual.
Right? Yeah, I was gonna say RTFM and
Yeah.
or just like links to the NES dev
Exactly.
thing but you'd get the link, but then you'd also be like, you get a response of like, oh, and by the way, you got to watch out for these things,
Yep.
and this is kind of tricky, and especially like Kasumi will go into all these different
Oh, my goodness.
He just like
3 pages.
right, but it's so helpful to have people who care enough
Exactly.
to want to help you do that, and I think it can be discouraging in a certain sense for people who are new to it because like it gets a little overwhelming that people are kind of like piling information on them. But I think they hopefully they kind of look back on it after they've kind of taken a step back and they go, wow, okay, hold on, these people like really want to help me and they're not just kind of trying to shove me off to the side somewhere.
Exactly.
And it's nice to see the community growing and even just in the year that I've been doing it.
It's funny because, starting with Game Boy Advance programming, Game Boy Advance had a fairly similar community. Maybe it wasn't quite as tight-knit as the NES community, and then it suddenly just died. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that was a really cool community. It's a shame that it up and died. So it's really fun kind of finding the NES community that I think is pretty similar.
GBA Dev?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was. There were posts all the time, like tech demos and games people were posting. And then, like you said, and then something just fizzled out. Yeah. And Atari has a similar community.
It's got a really good community. Yeah. No, it's funny because it's a little bit more like Nintendo Age, where the community is this. NES Dev is mostly tech developer people, where Atari Age you really have this big mix of just players and fans, and not just the tech people.
But that's cool. I mean, and then you get people coming in who are just interested. They're not ever going to write a game, but they're like interested in what's going on and just looking at what people are doing, and maybe they volunteer to test or something.
People are enthusiastic about playing.
Yeah, and then you get things like what Gloves did with the recent auction, where he made that Shmup Speed with Kevin, and it was really a community effort because it was
Gloves and Kevin and Bo did packaging.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know who else did.
Brad
did something.
Sorry if we left people out, but it's just kind of like this whole group of people came together to do this thing and ended up raising almost $3,000.
Is that how much it raised?
It was like crazy. I want to say it was like $2,700, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, for a good cause. So it's great to see that the community is accepting and like trying to do good stuff and just interested in the NES.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you don't like about the community?
That's a good question. I have to think about that. I don't know.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute. But what was my last thing? Because I forgot.
So it's a dangerous question. What do you not like? Well, there's this bald guy that. I'm just kidding.
Keep going. What's changed the most since you started doing NES programming?
I didn't start that long ago on NES programming, so I think the biggest thing, I think everybody's been saying this, but even in just in the past 2 or 3 years, it seems like the quality of games that have been released has been amazing. When I first started looking at some of the games, I'm like, well, these are pretty cool. It's cool that people are making NES games. Yeah. But then just in the past few years with, Owlia came out like right when I started. I remember seeing it and being like, well, forget it. That's better than anything I'm ever going to make. Like, forget it.
Yeah.
But Owlia and Lizard and like Twin Dragon, these big games with like big scrolling, and it seems like there's just been more and more of that kind of thing coming out. Yeah, there really have been these games that just keep coming out and are. I don't know if building on the success is the right way to, but like people get hyped out. So you get Kevin making The Incident, and people get excited about that, and they want to make a game. And then you got stuff like Spookatron, and people will get excited about that. And like I said, Owlia and Trophy, and the Dark. Sorry, what is it? Not Dark Wizard. Oh, the Mad Wizard.
The Mad Wizard.
Well, and then his
Black Box Challenge.
Yeah, I mean it's just this ginormous.
Yeah, all of these games, like you said, Lizard and Twin Dragons.
I get excited about the really
Eskimo
ginormous
Bob,
ones.
and no, all of these. It's really it's almost becoming too much now,
Right.
in a certain sense. Not that it's a bad thing.
Well,
but
Bo will tell us the homebrew community's crashing. Is that right?
well, maybe it's wishful thinking because he's got to work on the book and it's becoming too big.
Right.
I don't know.
But I mean, that's only like if you are a collector or you're somebody that feels like you have to play every game. Then
Right.
it feels like it's like, what do I do?
Right.
But for somebody like me, that I'm like, I'm just having fun making games.
Yeah, it would be
Like,
interesting to see.
I don't have to play all of them. I mean, I like to support what everybody's doing, but it's just fun.
Yeah, no, well, and I think the thing is that when it was even smaller, it was possible to support everything.
Right, you could buy everybody's cartridge and support them all.
Right, and it's getting tougher now. But
Right.
I'd be curious to know, like, what the rate of new releases is over the past couple of years compared to, like, what the number of
Releases
released
before
games,
that.
or even before that, or even during when the NES was actually in production.
Oh, yeah.
Because what are there, 800 licensed
no idea.
games? I think something
Something
like
like
that. So, I mean, you figure if the NES was in production 8 years, it's 100 games a year. I mean,
Right.
we're not getting
We're
anywhere
not
near
close
that.
to that.
But, I mean, that was with dedicated companies pumping a lot of money into it. Even if we had a tenth of that, that would be impressive.
Yeah.
Um,
I always think about that, too. With, like, these guys getting paid full-time. Like, how much could you churn out if you were making it full-time? Because there's a few people probably
yeah.
doing it now most of their time. But
Yeah.
so many of us, you get an hour here and there. And it takes
Well, right.
3 years to make a game.
Right, and that was why I forced myself to do the live stream, was to force myself to have the time to do it.
Right,
Because
set it
otherwise
aside.
life takes over.
Exactly.
And you don't have the time.
Trying to set aside time to actually get anywhere.
Well, and you have a big family that demands
Right.
your time, so...
So yeah, usually the only thing that's done is, after they're all in bed, if I can stay up for another hour and a half and
Right.
get some coding done then.
No, that's cool. And, I don't know, do we want to show your work area over there?
Sure,
since
we
we're
can do
here?
that. That's fine.
We'll
It's a
switch
mess,
to we'll switch to the other camera
So
here.
you can see my Pampers diapers.
Yeah.
Yes, I have lots of kids.
Oops, wrong. Here, you can just pick up the camera and
Oh, sure.
show everybody.
Oh yeah, this is my station down here in the basement. So I got the shaky cam, the CRT for testing Atari. I test Nintendo on there also, but the Atari really needs it. It kind of falls apart with an LCD, and then my mess of cords and projects and whatnot. And I try to make a poster of every game I do. So someday I'll have more, hopefully. So I don't know if there's anything else you want me to say about that.
Oh, that's cool.
All right.
It's cool to be able to show that. Let's switch back to this guy. Derek's like, ooh, framed art.
Yes, right. If you call it art.
Yeah. Well, I think those are cool posters. Definitely, definitely something that I think people. It's one of a kind,
Well, we have the blank walls in the basement. I'm like, I need something on the walls
Right.
here. And I'm like, I should.
So what are the current things you're
I should
working
get
on?
back
Oh
on the
yeah,
screen.
yeah. What are
Sorry,
the
guys.
what are the current things that you're working on right now besides the NES project?
Yeah, so I've got the NES project, is the Blaster Master type, inspired Metroid type thing.
It looks so cool. It looks so good.
It's a long way to go, and
Yeah.
I've let it lie fallow for a long time. So,
Yeah.
I've got an Atari 4-player adapter I've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
That I thought it was done, and then there's hardware problems with it where it causes flicker on Atari screens, and so I'm remaking it. And
Now, is that like a shielding problem, or is it just circuitry
It's-
gone wrong? Or?
I don't know. I don't think it's shielding. The Atari RF is really sensitive. Like, even if you flip the switches on the Atari, sometimes it causes flicker on the screen. I think it has something to do with how the voltage is changing when it comes out of the multiplexer in the Atari, and the Atari doesn't like it. I don't know. So I'm working on a new design of that.
Yeah.
There's a guy in the Atari homebrew community that's getting ready to release a game that uses it, and he's one of the kind of more well-known guys.
Okay.
He's pestering me. He's like, "Can we have it done by spring?" So I kind of have to
Gotta get it working.
get in gear on that one. So that's
Yeah.
my kind of high priority project right now.
So how's is the input situation on the Atari similar?
It's
or?
completely different.
Okay.
So it's a 9-pin controller,
Yeah.
and each pin is for a direction. So you have up, down, left, right,
Oh, okay.
and a button press.
So they're discrete.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have, voltage and a ground, and then 2 more pins that are mostly not used, but you can repurpose them for other things.
Okay.
But you can change any of those pins to output.
Okay.
And so I can tell 2 of the pins to be output for selectors. So basically, all this is a multiplexer, where the 2 pins coming out tell it which joystick you want to use now.
Right.
So it should be really simple.
Cycling through.
And every frame you cycle through all of them and read them.
That's cool.
It should be really simple, but
yeah, every once in a while you'll mention that you got something seemingly working, and then some other problem crops up.
I'm bad with electronics. Like, this is one of my first kind of hardware problems that I'm trying to do.
Yeah, we were both trying to do that whole NES controller.
Yeah, I've got that in a bin here
thing.
that I keep thinking I want to come back to.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Kevin after we got excited and had some progress.
Yeah, well, you actually had decent progress. You were sending characters.
Yes,
to
I
the
had.
NES.
I could get the characters on the screen, so I think I'm close. Where I got discouraged was once I hit this Atari problem, I got totally lack of confidence in my ability to deliver something that works glitch free. So
yeah,
we'll see. Hopefully, I can get back to it. So there's the Atari 4-player project, and a little suite of cheesy 4-player games to go with it. There was the Nintendo communication, internet communication, and then the
Super Homebrew Wars.
Super Homebrew Wars, I think, is done.
Okay.
Until somebody reports more bugs.
Right.
We'll see. And then, the big Blastervania Metroid Halcyon.
Right, and that looks really good. So I'm going to purposely touch on this because I know we talk about it a lot. We talked about it before. ROM releases versus Kickstarter versus physical copy.
My thing is, at this point in life, I never play games on my real Nintendo. And so, I fully support people doing cool cartridge releases because it's fun and exciting. And I wouldn't give money toward it, but I will never play cartridge releases. So I'm a big fan of ROMs existing. I'll pay you for your ROM.
Yeah.
But I can play it on my phone. I can play it 5 minutes here between putting kids to bed. And I personally, I don't know, maybe there used to be more money in the scene. I feel like the money, for myself, I'm not telling anybody else what to do. I'd rather give my ROM away and let people play it than worry about how much money I'm going to get for it, because it's such piddly amounts of money anyway.
Yeah. Well,
although I think NES, I haven't released a full NES game yet, so it seems like there's more money in Nintendo than there are some of the other things.
Yeah.
But my other games, I averaged $1 an hour when I figured out how much money I made.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, and I think you're right that there's definitely maybe some more money in the NES side of it, because
it's got a bigger fan base.
Yeah, and especially now there's the nostalgia with the NES Classic Edition, and then NES Maker drummed up a bunch of support and stuff. So
But I will say, even though I'm hyping the ROM release,
sure,
my big thing is you do this for fun. So my big thing is do what you want to do.
Right.
If you want to just make tin and sell it, do that. Don't let anybody tell you what to do.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, no.
It's not really an industry, so do what makes you happy.
Right. Yeah, it's not like you've got to report your quarterly numbers to Nintendo, or they're going to cut your licensing.
Exactly.
So
sometimes Temple on the forum will say "Oh, that's not sustainable because people want this kind of game." And my argument is, who cares what people want?
Right.
Make what you want.
Well, it depends. It depends on what your goal is, like you said.
Yeah.
Right. So. And then,
if your goal is to sell a lot, make what people want, I guess.
And then with the whole Kickstarter thing, that certainly has thrown some interesting numbers around in terms of what people are excited about.
Well, with Micromages getting just bajillions of dollars.
Well, yeah, that. I think everybody is still kind of. I think they're still
reeling on that one.
Yeah, because it's insane how it just exploded.
And that's super exciting. I'm so excited for those guys.
Me too. It's and that's the other thing. I think in other communities, and not even hobby communities, but work and professional communities, people say that, but they don't mean it.
That's true.
They're like, "Oh, I'm so excited for them,"
but mostly I'm angry because they won and I didn't.
Right, exactly. And this is people are really genuinely happy for them, because I think we were all shocked.
Yeah.
And just excited that we're in some way associated to those guys, because they're they're in the Discord and
well, the other fun thing about it is that they're such friendly, encouraging guys. Sometimes somebody does something that makes a ton of money, but they're not
so nice.
Not so nice, and you're like, well, okay for them.
No, they are very sweet guys. And again, very, very, I think, just as surprised as anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you think you'll do Kickstarter for Halcyon?
Frank and Graphics and I have talked about it a little bit. I think we're going to do a ROM release, probably even a free ROM release at some point in there, but also do a Kickstarter.
For the physical, or?
Yeah, so we might, I don't know, we haven't talked about it. Maybe do a physical and early access to the ROM, and then release the ROM, sort of like Derek was talking about it,
right.
Like release the ROM for free later, or maybe just do them both at the same time, but the cartridge is this much, and we just give away the ROM.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't decided. But when we started the project, I recruited her with saying, straight up, I want to give this thing away at the end.
Right. So. I mean, it's tough because if you don't do the ROM, Bo was saying there were people like demanding the ROM from him.
Yes,
and,
people are so entitled. Like,
right.
I don't understand.
And it's like, no, it's his game. He can do whatever he wants.
Like,
but at the same time, it's like then there are people who don't want to play it as a ROM. They want it as a real thing. It's like, there's no really pleasing everybody.
Well, and I think you're making games for the Nintendo, even though I'm a big fan of the ROMs. Like, if you don't have a cartridge, it's kind of like you're missing that.
Right. Yeah. Even using something like a Power Pack or an EverDrive, it's still cool when you plug it into the real thing and it works. But
every release I've done, when you get that cartridge, it looks like a cartridge. And you're like, this is great.
Yeah, and the production quality of all of the games that I've gotten, it's amazing how good. And I know that early on, everything was kind of scavenged from crappy games.
Yeah.
So the cartridges were just relabeled,
recycled, and
recycled boards and stuff like that. But now that everything is being produced specifically for the intention of new game releases.
Yeah. Well, with INL having his boards and Nimblers making them, and these guys that have the mold for the shells.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how that's all come about, and now it looks like with the retro dumper that INL's made, they're going to do more platforms and more cartridge types, which is just, I mean, you have all of those systems on one board through USB. It's crazy.
We were chatting the other day. I'm like, oh, well, someday there'll be Game Boy Advance support. They got that connector on there.
Right.
So
yeah.
We have a different release of Anguna someday.
Yeah. So, let's see if we have any other questions.
Sorry, I keep going off the edge of the screen.
No.
Sorry that you guys can only see half my face.
It's a little weird having to share this space.
Any other questions?
Hey Plays Guide. Derek said make Bunny Boy fix your 4-player adapter for the Atari.
I'll just send it to him and be like, Bunny Boy, fix it for me.
Kevin said he bought his Mini Cooper with money from E.T., so that can put it into perspective.
Just from E.T.? Holy cow. Okay, so maybe there is money in Nintendo. That's insane, Kevin.
Derek left and said he'll watch the rest of the recorded show. Well, thanks for stopping by, Derek. And those are the questions so far. Scotty had said he likes the posters. And he'll sue me for president. I feel like there are so many things that I repeat in these, but it's because there really are sort of these recurring themes for the community and for the things that are going on. You seem to be kind of middle of the road when it comes to, I'm not going to specifically name anything, but tools that have emerged for the NES homebrew scene.
Right.
You seem to be fairly even-keeled about your approach to all of that. With certain caveats, though. But is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. Kind of it comes down to, because I said really what it comes down to is do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so its existence doesn't bother me.
Right.
Like, until we get floods of people swarming all over forums asking stupid questions, let people have fun with it.
Even still, if they're posting it in the, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, help me out, like, that's the thing. I think the community is willing to put up with that for the most part.
As long as people are, like I said, there's a difference between uninformed questions and stupid questions.
Well, sure.
So if it's uninformed questions, that's fine. I've asked my share of uninformed. It's the people that are just idiots that are.
Right. Well,
and I mentioned before. So Atari, somebody came out with Fred Quimby made this thing called Atari Basic, which requires programming, but it's completely simplifies the Atari programming. And there's loads of stuff that comes out on Atari Basic, and some of it is complete trash, and some of it's really good games. And I assume NES Maker will be the same way. It'll be There'll be some good stuff, there'll be some
the
trash.
Atari Basic, is it just that you're writing your code in Basic?
You're writing your code in Basic, and the hard part of writing an Atari game is doing the display kernel, because you have to do all this tightly timed code. And this has like 4 different pre-made kernels, and so you can just do the things that it lets you do.
Okay. All right. So
you don't have to write any of that.
Okay, so you're just writing your game logic, and then it takes care of the display.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading, what is that book, the
Racing the Beam?
Racing the Beam, and they were describing that. I was like, I had no idea that that's how you program.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But that's also how you can make good-looking stuff. So all the
Right.
Atari Basic games kind of look the same.
Right.
Well, so I think with NES Maker we'll have something like that. They're all kind of going to feel
Right.
the same, except for a few things that'll shine.
And
I named it for you. But.
Well, that's okay. But I think that's true of any tool. Like we've talked about RPG Maker on the stream before,
Yeah.
and Game Maker, and insert your Maker tool there.
Right.
But it's the same thing. It's like there are going to be a bunch of people who play around with it. They make a character walk around, and great, and then that's it. And then you'll get these games that are just totally amazing. Like the Hyper Light Drifter was made in Game Maker. And,
Is it really?
yeah, and it was just one of those things where you're like, they must have ripped apart so much of what Game Maker does to make that work. Or there was this really cool game made in RPG Maker called To the Moon.
I've heard of it.
And if I remember right, the plot is like as Chopin is dying, he has this hallucination dream or whatever, where it takes place in another world, and it's an RPG, and it's gorgeous, and it's like this amazing game that was made in RPG Maker, and you're like, I've tried to make things in RPG Maker, and they look like they were made in RPG Maker, and this doesn't. It's so I think in that sense the tools are great, but it then makes it really hard for you to feel like you have your own voice with it.
Well, and to me, the fun of this is, part of it is coming up with an NES game at the end, but most of it is the process. Learning how the Nintendo or the Atari or the Game Boy Advance, whatever, works, digging into the code, that feeling of like, something's on the screen.
Right.
So, I'm not remotely interested in using NES Maker or something like it, but its existence.
But I think also that you were interested in programming in the first place.
Right. I was interested in programming,
right,
as opposed to just having a NES game without. Now, with NES Maker, there are those complaints about, well, they promised no programming required, but programming is required. There's some...
Yeah.
That's the bigger question, is management of the product.
Well, that's...
Joe's gonna have
I can't... I'm not telling him how to run his project. That's his business. And
but the existence of it, whatever.
And I will say that the community as a whole there is actually mostly pretty positive about everything. So it's nice to see a bunch of people really excited about the NES and trying to make something. It's just, there are parts of it that are frustrating. We don't have to get into that. But anybody have any more questions on here? Because we are getting up.
We're running out of things to say.
We're getting close to the hour, actually. So I feel like Bo and I kind of got caught up, and I forget what side discussion we got caught up in, and then it was like an hour and a half had already passed, and I was like, oh, no, that's too long.
Long is okay.
Yeah, no.
I'm not saying we need to talk. I was remembering the 3-hour extravaganza of their podcast for the competition last year.
Oh my god.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, no, it was so cool, and that they put that all together. And it was neat to hear your voice for the first time.
Well, hearing everybody talk and...
Yeah, it was...
I wish my voice was as cool as MT's.
Well, I definitely like that people are trying to humanize the people that you talk to on the Discord, and like I was saying earlier, that's kind of part of the reason why I'm trying to do this too, is because there are so many regular people that you talk to, regular in the sense that they're always there, that you're always talking.
Let's meet the humans behind it.
Right? Yeah, because the nature of Discord is such that you don't really get to see or hear the people unless you accidentally click into the voice chat as part of the application, and then you're the only one there. And
well, I was telling my wife back in doing Game Boy Advance programming in 2004. So Temples was around then, and then even when I stopped, reading Slashdot, he's regular on Slashdot. So even when I wasn't in the NES community, like I'm reading stuff Temples writes, and I go to NES and Temples is there, and I'm like, I've been interacting with this guy for like 15 years and never met the guy.
It's amazing. Yeah,
it was just making me laugh. Like,
well, it's amazing to me that like you have that interest and the desire to do it for that long.
Right.
Like, I hope that in 15 years the community is still as interested in doing it, and I'm still doing it. And
I think it probably will be
Yeah.
because NES has more, it's just so nostalgic for most of us.
Right.
But seeing the way the Game Boy Advance community up and died, it's kind of was like,
Well,
how long do these communities last?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, it'll be interesting. And then, since we're kind of talking about like history and moving forward, like, what are your thoughts on some of these? There are people who are trying to preserve games in museums, and I've heard people be like, "Let's dumb their games," which I don't agree with.
No,
I mean, I understand the perspective, I think, but what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, the fact that we've experienced these things. Well, let me just back up, so I'm going to get nostalgic.
Okay.
I tend to keep like all my toys that I really liked as a kid, and if you train the camera around, we'll actually see half of them down here. It's like because I wanted my kids to see what I played with.
Right.
And when my kids go to visit my parents, my dad gets out like his Davy Crockett set from when he was a kid.
Oh, cool.
And my kids are like, this is really cool. I want to play with it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if we can't maintain some of these games, like the future generations won't get to see what we played with and what we did. So I'm fully in support of that. I get frustrated. I was just talking to, I don't know, Willie Bob, my office mate is still on there. He was watching a StarCraft 2 stream today at work. And I was like, the problem is these games, like StarCraft 2, they released an expansion, and you can't play the game that originally came out of StarCraft 2 because they've changed so much. They've removed units, they've added stuff. And I'm like, that game doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's changed.
Yeah.
And even a modern game that's still supported, you can't play.
They won't even let you.
Right. You can't play that version of it that you wanted to play before.
Like a No Man's Sky, which disappointed everybody on release.
Yeah.
At this point, is actually a really good game, but in order to play that, as soon as you put the disc in, it downloads like 50 gigs.
And you're playing the new game, and you're not playing the game that was there before.
Right. And I mean, every single game that I buy that's new requires some huge amount of downloads. And then, like, all these people are kind of alluding to, it's at some point, if companies don't care,
that game's gone.
Right, that game's gone. You're gonna have to hope someone had another PlayStation or Xbox or whatever.
Exactly.
Assuming that it's not looking for Xbox Live or PlayStation Now to let you even launch it.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's the other thing, is like you can't even play Gran Turismo because, well, you can play Gran Turismo, but it's constantly prompting you with errors because you're not on the latest version and it can't connect to the PS Network.
Yeah, and there's some of these games that are shut down. They're gone.
Yeah. Some game what was I talking to about this? They actually hacked the game so they could bring up their own public servers after the Blizzard game.
Blizzard, a lot of those have had hacked servers. But I was reading about one recently. There was a lawsuit about.
Oh, really?
And the person who brought up the server ended up winning the lawsuit. I don't remember what game it was, but there was a judge or whoever ruled, you can play the game.
Yeah.
If it requires the server, you can do it.
Right. So
I might be misquoting that entirely, so one of you guys out there can find the link and prove me wrong.
Well, all right. Any other questions? Come on. Brian, no more snarky questions from you? We'll not be on anymore.
No, we're losing everybody. We bored them off.
I don't think so.
Bored Brian's kids off.
I think part of it is just even the time.
Yeah.
Little time shift here, but well, as always, if you have questions,
you know where to find us.
You know where to find us. You were on Nintendo Age as
GAUAUU, Gao
Wow.
Although I'm not on Nintendo Age real often, so you might have to personal message me or I won't see it.
Right, or you're better off on the Discord.
Discord or NestDev. I'm on NestDev all the time.
Yeah, and I'm there as well. I'm on Twitter at Clairvis, and you're on Twitter at
Nathan Tolbert.
Yeah.
Tolbert.
You can find us both.
Tolbert.
Yes. Hard T. None of this soft.
Tolbert.
Yeah. Point of a sore point, it seems.
Actually, I don't even mind. I don't care. It's funny that the first 3 or 4 times that Bo or whoever on the podcast is like, "What's his name?" I don't know. I don't really care.
So, but thank you all for watching. It was I enjoyed being able to trick everybody.
And thanks for coming down.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate you inviting me into your house.
I appreciate
and hopefully I'll see you at MacFest.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah. So, everybody, see you later.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, and hopefully see you at MacFest if you're going. And I don't know why I'm getting notifications because I thought I turned that off, but it's okay. It was perfect timing. Good night.